person, showing that the rates of return to vocational education and training in Africa did not work. Now, there are huge methodological problems with how you compare, even if you think now, as the economy's changed, what can you extrapolate about the likely career earnings of someone leaving an educational program at this time? How can you extrapolate that from 20 years ago, which are now the people who you can measure in the workplace? So the big questions that, if both supply and demand are changing radically, can you say anything about this? And there are also very technical issues about how you estimate it. But the data is actually largely 30 to 40 years old, but we're still basing global policies off literature that's hugely outdated, based on incomplete surveys, typically from the 1970s, but they're now an orthodoxy. And so we don't need to redo the work because it was proven in 1975 that this was true. So that's been the problem. The rates of return show that vocational education training doesn't work, but there's still a policy problem that we need to do something out there. The key document at the global level was a World Bank report in 1991, which took this argument, at the same time as the bank and other agencies were saying primary education is the answer. This then led them on to a critique of public vocational education and training. Trainers are divorced from industry contexts. Equipment is outdated and old-fashioned. Unit costs are very high because you can only have a few learners in a workshop. The curriculum is outdated because it's set by a Ministry of Education rather than by industry needs. So this is bad quality, inefficient, ineffective education. But the bank sort of stopped short of saying, so we should get rid of it all, because that was politically a bit too brave a step, and they can still push loans because countries are happy to reform their systems. So it led to a critique of public vocational education training, which in a sense went two ways. In Latin America, it led to a massive privatization of public systems and the rise of vouchers and other schemes to create a market. Also in the African informal sectors, particularly in West Africa, it led to a lot of schemes to try and use the informal sector to produce the trainers. So the people who were doing the training informally, to try and link them into a formal system, but make that private. The Latin American was